Hello guys, welcome to Prime Space Design. Today we're going to be answering some questions that a lot of architects and architectural students ask whenever they're doing their exterior visualization. Especially with lighting. Daytime lighting is one of the most difficult points of the time, points of the day that people find it difficult to actually render out and give good results. You have issues with looking at shadows, understanding how shadows work and how the sun should feel in your environment. Now, technically, we have two different types of daytime methods, daytime render scene methods to actually utilize. You have the natural sunlight, which comes stock with Chaos Corona, because definitely we're looking at Chaos Corona today, and the stock sunlight comes with its natural feel and physical feel of the natural sun. So that is a method that we're going to be looking at today. And the other method is the HDRI method, where you have to import HDRIs to replicate other temperatures and other scenes from all over the world into your exterior render. But however, today we're going to be talking solely about the natural lighting, the natural sunlight that comes stock with Chaos Corona. Okay, first things first, as you can see right now, we have a scene for this example, for this tutorial, and we are going to be looking at basically how to apply the sun. And first of all, you have to get two things right. You have to get your camera angle right, you have to get your positioning right, and definitely your population right. So today we're going to look at a very blank scene, and we have our camera already set up, and we have chosen our camera angle. So we'll jump straight right into it. Okay, first things first, we would test run and see what it looks like without having any image, without having any sun or any form of lighting in the scene. So first of all, I would go to my settings, my render setup. After you must have set up this whole area, we click on this window frame and lock it up to make sure that it doesn't jump to the next window frame when we are trying to switch frames to show you exactly what we're doing. Alright, that is done. The next thing that follows is we do a test render to see what we have right now. So when you hit render, you will find out basically that your scene is dark. As you can see, it's quite dark. Let me zoom out to show you. It is quite dark. There is no light in the scene. Alright, so let's let's stop the render and change it to an interactive render so that you'll be able to see what we are doing while we are changing the parameters of the render. Okay, so no light. What we'll do next is to go to, if you press the short key 8, it will take you to the environment and effects tab. Under here you can see that the environment is actually empty, no lights. So we would want to bring in the sky, the Corona sky, into the scene, which is, like I said earlier, a stock lighting from Chaos Corona. So we look for Corona, which is what we're working with, and find Corona sky. We'll find that, we'll click OK. And now you can see that we have lighting in, but it's so overwhelmingly too much. So you have different ways you can reduce the intensity of this light, but first of all, we must bring in the sky map, or the sky default exterior render platform into the slot so that we can edit and see if we can bring down this excessive exposure. So we go back to 8, short key 8, and pull up environment and effects tab. Drag the map 1 into this tab right here. So we take it and drop it into Corona Physical Map tab, and we'll change it to as an instance, and we say okay. Now the parameters of the sky map is shown in the material editor tab. So here you can change the characteristics of what we're seeing here. So sky model definitely tells us the different skies that is available here. We have Pritham, ETLR, we have Rawa Fake, and we have Hosek and Wakey, and we have the stock one, the PRG Clear Sky. So let's stick with the PRG Clear Sky and reduce the intensity. So 1.0 tends to be 1.0 and above tends to be higher intensities, and from 1.0 downwards gives you lower intensity. So let's do 0.5, and at 0.5 you can see that the lighting tends to reduce, and if you say 0.2, the exposure keeps reducing, and now we're having a picture frame of what the building is actually looking like. But I don't think we are yet satisfied with how it looks. Sorry. All right, we are not yet satisfied with how it looks, but we would want to go further to reduce exposure. So let's see, let's try 0.1, and yes, it starts to feel a little bit better. At the horizon, we have this white background at the horizon. I'll show you in a minute how we can play with the horizon lights and the top lights as well. So let's reduce a little bit further to 0.09. Now we can see the shadows. The shadows are much more they're much more pronounced and much more effective. We can see the ambient oscillations around the edges, and it looks a little bit better as we have reduced the intensity of the sky. We can go further a little bit, maybe 0.08, and yes, and I think this should be the best exposure level. So let's try. What does turbidity do? Sorry, excuse me. Turbidity changes the type and the arrangement of the sky. The more you increase the turbidity, the more you invite overcast. For example, make it to 5. You see that the sky is turning gray and giving you that overcast feeling. Let's try 10. Yes, so the higher you go, you have that overcast feeling, and it tends to turn a little bit gray. You can play with this as much as you want, depending on the type of environment you're trying to look at, the scenery you're trying to make. Then we have altitude. The higher you go in altitude, the bluer the scene. So let's say we go 1,000 meters. You find out that the scene gets bluer because you're going higher into the altitude. So the scene starts to look a lot bluer. And let's say we do 5,000 meters. Yeah, and it tends to be so blue. So it depends on what you are looking at. There is a daytime scene can vary, but if you want a clear sky, you might have to come down a little bit on the altitude. Let's say 1,000 meters. Yes, and then the turbidity, you can leave it at 2, or let's say 2.5. Exactly. So at this point now, you can already tell, oh, something is missing, and that is basically the sun. Let's say that we are satisfied with what we have here as the base part of the of the sky. So moving on, the next thing is to get in the corona sun. Now I wanted to show you something much more, something important to notice while you're dropping the sun, and that is the sun selection tab. At this time it is set at automatic, so it automatically detects any sunlight that you bring, any sun that you bring into the scene. So it automatically detects that, or you can put it to manual and find it yourself by clicking on the sun, but I would advise we leave it at automatic. And then we have the ground effect color, which is beyond the horizon. Usually it can be, you can change it to whatever color, but we're going to leave it stock as the color it has right now, because we're not taking our cameras below the horizon. All right. So let's bring in the corona sun. You have different ways you can bring in the corona sun. Either you come to this place where it says create corona sun, or you can go to the modifier tab and go to lights and change this to corona and get a corona sun. So let's use this method and drag in the corona sun. So let's try to drag in this from this angle, and as you can see immediately, the corona sun is, is giving me the abilities to go up and down, up and down, up and down. The higher you go, the brighter the sun is, and as you can see, the sun is way too bright, and the intensity of the sun is way too much. But for this course and for this tutorial, I will definitely have to reduce the sun's intensity. But let me just show you a little bit of how flexible the sun is and what the sun tries to do when you move it up and down. So if you drag the sun down, you would see that we have this orangey kind of sunset vibe, and that is exactly what happens naturally when the sun goes down. Naturally, it gives you this vibe. It gives you the sunset vibe. And if you can take a look at the horizon, you see it rhymes naturally with what would happen when the sun is brought down. You can see that you have that grayish and orange magenta finish on the horizon, which is actually realistic, right? So when you raise the sun up a little bit, you see the orange gets brighter and brighter. Now, before we do that, let's solve the issue of the brightness of the intensity of the sun, so that we don't have overexposed areas on our model. So we go to the modifier tab again, hit modify, and over here you can see that the intensity is at 1.0. And if we look at the sky, our sky's intensity is at 0.08. So sometimes it works to match the intensity of the sky with the intensity of the sun. In this case, we'll have it as a gradual thing. So let's say 0.5. So at 0.5, the intensity of the sun, as you can see, does reduces. But for us to be accurate, I would want us to raise the sun maybe to somewhere around here. So this would tell us that, okay, the sun is we're getting to a noon scene. So we would try to reduce the sun's intensity from this height of the sun. It gives us a much more accurate understanding of how intensified the sun is. So at 0.2, you can see that we are starting to see shadows cutting across the building, or the model rather. So we reduce it to 0.1. Same thing, we're getting good results. We need to keep going. 0.08. Perfect. We keep going. 0.07. We keep going. Ooh, sorry, 0.07 is a lot. 0.07. And at 0.07, you see that the sun is quite still, still bright, but it's not burning so much of the surface of the model. So we try to reduce a little bit more further. We do 0.05. We do 0.05, and at 0.05 we are getting good results. 0.03. Exactly. Now at 0.03 you get to see that the sun is still bright, but it is not overexposing the model, even though the model is white, because that is the essence of having the model in white, so that you can be able to determine how exposed the intensity of the sun is. So this is really awesome right now. So with this you can see your shadows, right? You can see the underlining shadows, the door entry shadows, and all whatnot, and it looks absolutely perfect. So by the time you start adding textures, start populating, start playing more with the effects of the sun on the shadows, on the effects of the sun on each object you place in the scene, and how it throws each shadows, then you start to appreciate more of what we have just done right now, right? And this is just just to show you how you can play with the sun's intensity. Now the sun itself, then the sun has its own parameters as well. So we have color, where it tries to depict the color of the sun. You can see realistic, which is what we are using right now. You can do the direct input. Now at the direct input you can see that the sun changes its hue to a bluish hue, because over here you can try to change manually change the coloration of the sun. So if we do something like this, we get to have something that looks exactly like this. You get to do it yourself, right? And then the colors tend to change. You can reduce the colors, and it replicates. You can actually do all of that yourself without automatically waiting for the realistic tab to do the job for you. So you can also go to the Kelvin temperature, and at 6,500 it is set to be at normal. It sits in between blue and warm. So the higher you go above 6,500, the warmer it gets. So if you do 7,000, it gets a lot warmer. If you do 8,000, let's see. Oh, okay. In this case, if it's supposed to be a camera, it is the higher you go after 6,500, the warmer it gets. But from the sun's perspective, the lower you go, let's try 3,000. Exactly. So the lower you go with the sun's Kelvin temperature, the warmer it gets. So 1,500 will get it warmer, and 9,000 will get it colder. So you have this cold scenes and warm scenes just by moving the temperatures on this scale. But depending on what you are looking for, if you leave it at realistic, it will give you a realistic hue of what happens when you raise the sun at a certain level. So if you say, this is not really enough for you, you can do a direct input and change the color texture to the sun, and give it your own taste. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I hope this gives you a one-take entry into how to use the Corona Sun. And I want you to like and hit the like button, subscribe, and definitely we'll be dropping in more scenes, more tutorials on how to handle, more in-depth tutorials on how to handle the sun and the other type of lighting in your exterior scenes. And also an honorable mention is that while you are on your floor plan, you move your sun, it moves with you, right? You get to see where it is placed, right? The shadows change. You can see the sun at the back. If you take it all the way to the back, you can see the sun over here. Now under the modifier tab, an honorable mention, you can change the size of the size of the sun. So when you reduce at 1.0 higher, the sun gets bigger. And if you look at it at the render box, you see that the sun gets bigger. And if you do 0.5, the sun gets a lot smaller. So, and the smaller the sun, the stronger the shadow and the sharper the shadows cast. But the bigger the sun, the softer the shadows would be cast. So this is the honorable mention. As you can see, the shadows get softer. So these are the honorable mentions I wanted to get to you. And I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Please like, share, and subscribe. And hope to see you on the next tutorial video. Peace.